like to believe last year, and I want to start off by thanking everybody that supports us over the years. You know, we've all gone through this before. Myself, I've been a trapper for the last 27 years, so I've seen the highs and lows. And you know, like Jeff said, we're going to get through it. It's just going to take some time. Unfortunately, things go up a lot slower than they go down. So we saw that nice peak back a few years ago, and things dropped off in a hurry. And it's going to take a while to climb back up. As far as we're concerned, I mean, last year the beaver sales obviously weren't price-wise what we wanted, but we did have good clearances. We managed to sell all the medium and small beavers and the lower sizes like that. So we do have a good market for those, and we will again this year. We've had a lot of interest coming in right now over the summer for beavers. Same with rats. Right now we're getting quite a few calls for muskrats, so hopefully it's a sign that things are turning around. Like I said, it's going to take a while to get the prices back up to where we want them. Other items such as foxes should do okay. Marten again will be in about the same range as we saw last year. Okay. The nice thing about marten is that they're fairly easy to put up compared to a $15 or $20 beaver. Coyotes, wolves, obviously they're pretty marketable right now. Coyotes all going basically for the trim trade through Canada Goose and any of their competitors that you know, all the knockoffs that are following suit. So there's still quite a good demand for coyotes and good clear coyotes and stuff like that. So what I brought with me was some timber wolves. Again, since the coyote market's so hot, we basically don't have any coyotes left in the warehouse, so I didn't have a whole lot that I could choose from to bring. So I chose just to bring some timber wolves here, and we'll try and go through the coyotes as best we can. Basically, the grading of them is very similar. The things we look for, the way they're colored out and stuff like that. And basically, the beginning of the process is trying to determine what we're looking at. So I know it's going to open up a big can of worms, but what's the difference between a coyote and a wolf, and how do we determine that? And it depends on the trapper and how he's put up that fur. So I know looking around the room, there's quite a few really good wolf and coyote handlers here. Does anybody have you know, a method to determine whether they put it up as a coyote or a wolf? Nobody. Okay, so for myself, size basically has a lot to do with it. Typically, a typical true coyote's going to be about 35, 40 pounds max for the males, a little smaller for the females. If you're getting animals that are weighing 60, 70 pounds, they're more likely a timber wolf. Okay, and that's when I would start to think about whether I'm going to leave the claws and the pads and all that stuff on them. Okay, if you take a timber wolf and you cut the feet off, all right, you're going to severely devalue it. One of the things that they're using timber wolves for is basically the taxidermy trade, full mounts, rugs, wall hangers. So they want all that stuff on there. The other thing they'll use them for is, again, just like the coyotes, they're going to use them for collar trim, all right, on a higher end kind of garment. But when they do that, they're going to cut the animal into strips, but they also have a market for claws. Okay. So lots of times when the buyer's coming to look at the timber wolves, he's looking to check out the claws and the shape and the size of them. Okay, so if you cut those off, yes, he can still use that animal for trim, which is probably what he was going to do in the first place, but then he's lost all the value from the claws. Okay, and they easily sell these for between $5 and $10 a claw. All right, so you want to make sure you have those on there as far as the timber wolves go. This guy here, I'm sure most of you haven't caught any of this color. This came from Nunavut on Baffin Island. Okay, so this is an Arctic wolf. So that's the top of the line wolf there. There you're looking at between $400 or $500 US per wolf. Okay, where's the top eastern wolf or a Algonquin wolf? I don't want to go there, but you know, you might get $200, $250 for that kind of wolf. Right? So basically, for the timber wolves, regardless of where they're from, you want to make sure you're doing them up complete. Okay, for taxidermy. So they're going to have all their pads. All right. Myself, I would prefer to see them, I call it cupped, or the pads cased out like that, a little pocket. Okay, you want to leave that pad there. With that pad gone, they can only do so much as far as how they mount it and display it. So that's, again, kind of deterring from how much they're going to pay for that timber. All right, you want to make sure that that's nice and dry though, okay? So you can either stuff some paper towel in there for a little while, or some borax, or even baby powder works really well for that. It's a little less caustic than the borax. Okay? take out all the meat and everything and just cut it off, leave the last claw, or the last digit on the claw. Alright. The lips, you're going to want to make sure that, you guys all see this one here, this is a really good example. All the gums are left on there, okay? So when I start skinning a timber wolf myself, I start basically from the mouth, and I'll skin it out that way, from the inside, versus having it done at the end. Okay, that way I can make sure that when I go around the gum line on the jaws, around the teeth, that I'm going to have all the gum material there. They need that to put back onto the mount, onto the fiberglass mount for the skull. All right, and without that, there's a lot of repair to do. Okay, so you want to make sure you have that. Next thing is the ears. All right, the biggest difference between the coyote ears and wolf ears is we want the front of that ear left on the wolf. Okay, with that gone, what they'll have to do is they'll have to rebuild that. Again, they can take an ear off of another wolf and attach it to that one, but that's, again, going to cost them money. So you want to make sure you leave that front of the ear on. That being said, the cartilage has to come out, or at least be split and open so it can dry. Okay. The worst thing on a taxidermy animal with bad ears is that the hair is going to slip. And it's just like we tell you to do with the foxes and the coyotes. Lynx is another one. You might want to take the bigger bulk of cartilage out. If that hair starts to slip, if it's falling out because it's not dried properly and it gets back into the nape of the neck there, it's going to go into a damage category, so you want to make sure you take that out completely. All right. The other place to be careful, taxidermy wise, is around the eyes. All right. Again, you want to make sure you have all the eyelids there. The more you leave on, the better. They can trim it after, but just make sure you leave as much on there as possible. Okay. Tail, again, open and split down the middle so it's nice and dry. All right. And basically pinned out, nice so it dries. Okay. Any questions about that kind of put up? Again, it takes a long time to do it properly. So that's where we get into deciding whether or not we want to cut the feet off. All right. Again, when I mentioned size, a typical big coyote is, our 3X coyotes start at 46 inches, and it takes a big coyote to make 46 inches. Right? So anything that's over that, I would tend to start leaning towards a timber wolf. All right, if it's about something like this, 46, 48 inches, right? Depending on the quality of it, you may want to just lop the feet off and not worry about the ears and the lips and all that stuff. It takes a long time, so it depends on how much time you have. Myself, I don't have a whole lot of time. Between putting up 100 and some beavers a year, the difference I lose by not doing them up taxidermy style doesn't really, it outweighs the time. Especially with the coyote prices being as high as they are today.
How long does it take you to skin a wolf like that?
To skin it and put it up completely?
Well, just skin.
Just to skin it?
Yeah.
Probably a couple hours. By the time I do the feet out properly and the lips and the ears and everything, I know Neil can attest it takes a long time to do it properly.
Oh, yeah.
So you really want to make sure that it's worthwhile. And I'm going to go through showing you some of those skins where they're borderline, which you probably don't want to waste your time on, okay? All right, so again, like I said, starting off on size, if it's a smaller animal, the price of a coyote, a large coyote could be basically the same price as this timber wolf with the feet done up. So why bother doing up all the feet if you're going to just get the same amount, okay? And basically royalty prices, the price for royalty for a timber wolf compared to a coyote, it's a lot cheaper for a coyote and stuff like that, all right? Quality-wise, I mean, we're basically the same as Jeff mentioned with the fishers. We're going to look at the start. We're going to pick up the animal and check to see how well it's covered with the guard hair. You guys can all be around. You can take a look at this after. How open it is, how finished it is, how much of the underfur is showing, okay? Whether we determine whether it's a select, a ones and twos, a twos, or even worse, okay? The next thing after that, we're going to look for any damages, bullet holes, taint marks, any bit of mange. When it comes to bullet holes, though, we know that most coyotes are shot. A lot of them are snared up here, but down south, a lot of them are hunted. So we're going to allow a little bit of damage from a smaller caliber bullet. Anything that big is going to be a good slide, okay? But if it's just got a couple of like 22 holes or something small like that, it'll go right into the clean stuff, okay? They're cutting it all into strips anyway for these hats or these coats. so that they can go around that. Right? If it starts getting into some bigger damage, then it's going to go into a good slate category. The other thing we look for is taint. And we all know wolves are infamous for having green bellies. You know, you catch them and they don't freeze right away. They got a belly full of meat. They're going to go green, and what that happens, if it's left too long, then the fur is going to start to taint with the leather, and then the fur is going to fall out. You can see on this one here, I can actually pull out, okay, big chunks of fur. And that's on the back. That's showing me that's really bad. Normally they start tainting around the belly side, and if the taint's too bad, it's going to roll right around into the hips and stuff, and that's what's happened there.
So is that worth anything still?
This is going into the damage category. Okay, I can't trust this to dress properly, so by the time they put it in the soup and it comes out and it rehydrates, there's going to be great big patches of fur missing if there's anything left to it. So this gentleman's actually cut the feet off, so he's actually, whether he knew it was tainted or not, saved himself a bit of time. That wolf right there is not going to get you very much money at all, if any. So that's the unfortunate part. And that leads me to another question. Maybe the CO gentleman in the back can, shed some light as to, we call it no value skins, and the responsibility of the trapper, if he knows that that animal has got no value, whether he's forced. I know the rule is that if you catch it, you can't allow spoil or whatnot, depending on. So is it up to the trapper? Are they allowed to determine whether or not that skin has no value, or do they have to put it up and send it to auction and have us determine that? I'm just getting at that we get a lot of skins that go through the warehouse that are of no value, and it took a lot of time for the individual to put up, and we end up just destroying them. So, and it usually ends up costing the trapper money just to put it up through royalties and commission and all that stuff. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be pursuing anything like that. I'll just address it. You said so. Some of them are sending in the furs, and you guys are at the end of the day, if there's no value, it's just
Right, we
destroy
destroy them. We
Yeah.
send them to the dump.
So I mean, I know the letter of the law says you can't destroy any merchantable that you can sell, right? But in a case like that, we're going to be using our officer discretion to not pursue a charge. As long as you can justify that, again, there is no value. So if it was going to be sent to the fur auction house and they would be destroying it, I mean, we can cut that middleman out. You guys can make that decision. We're not going to be pursuing that locally here, unless we get complaints that, hey, this guy's got prime fur and he's not sending it because he knows he's not going to get a lot of money, and then it's being destroyed. That's where we would kind of be pursuing charges. I don't know, does that clarify?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Certain jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Right.
So just for somebody to stand up and say, yeah, no, this was garbage?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
I
understand value has different meanings to different people. $5 for me versus $5 for you is two different things. Yeah. I'm just saying there is, and most trappers know when they're looking at furs whether it's got any value at all. I mean, I'm talking about mangy coyotes, coyotes that are what we call a third. Now, I don't know if anybody's had a coyote come back and return for 3. Basically, it's no fur value from here down at all. There's no fur there, period. I think that kind of stuff, a lot of places, the trappers are forced to skin that kind of stuff and send it in, and it just clogs up the system. I was just asking, not so much from the warehouse perspective, but as my own, as a trapper, you know.
The same thing we do to avoid any question, is if you have a question about it,
yeah,
you probably send it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's in doubt.
If there's any questions here, if it's completely obvious and we can look at it and say, there's no value to this, then, it's probably not going to pursue.
Yep. Thank you. Anyway, is there any questions on coyotes as far as coyotes and timber wolves as far as put up and what you should be doing and shouldn't do? Like I said, it's a judgment call as to whether you call it a coyote or a wolf. Our graders are going to make that final call. I mean, we get skins that come in that are received as coyotes, but we know they do better as a timber wolf. Okay, even without the feet. Timber wolves basically have, does everybody know what the grotzen is? Okay, so the grotzen is this one. big heavy part right here in the shoulder, okay? Typically on a coyote it's 1.5 to 2 inches long. On a timber wolf we start getting into that 3-4 inch length of drop in here. Okay, so if it's gonna look better as a timber wolf and kind of look funny in a coyote, we're gonna shift it around for you. We're gonna make sure that you get top dollar for your skin no matter what you do with it, okay? So that, we're gonna leave that up to the discretion of the graders.
So you're saying that a really nice coyote, you can use, just your discretion, you can make that a wolf,
Yeah.
even though it's not?
Yeah, I
a wolf?
mean, our size categories, you know, for timber wolves, they're in our manual there. Even a smaller, like a bigger coyote might look like a small wolf pup. Okay? And vice versa, the wolf pup might go better as a coyote without its feet, depending on the way it looks. And that's why I say you get into that gray area as to what you do with it.
So the buyers can't tell the difference between wolf fur and coyote?
Well, they can, you know what I mean? But as far as what their use is, whether they buy it or not. Timber wolves are sold, as you can see, these are all allotted. They're basically sold individually. They're so unique in color and shape and quality and stuff. So, whereas the timber or the coyotes are going into bulk sales for just trim and everything like that, right? So by the time they cut them in strips, it really doesn't matter to them a whole lot as to whether it should have been a timber wolf versus a coyote, as long as it works for them. Okay. Yeah.
Was your color determine which way you're gonna skin it to, or put it up?
Yeah, again, it's hard to say. I mean, last year I had a really clear, and when I talk about clarity, it's the amount of orange. It's the same with the Fishers, okay? So a clear wolf will be more of a grayish color, or that bright color that you see here, versus something that's off, all right? Pretty prime example, you can see the difference there, okay? If that happens in coyotes, you know, a nice clear coyote could still bring you over $100 without worrying about doing all the feet up and everything like that. Send that same coyote that size in with all the feet, it might bring you $125 as a timber wolf. So it's up to you, again, as how much time you want to spend on that animal. Okay?
Mark,
Yep.
what about a black wolf?
Black wolf,
Even a small one?
small one, yeah. I would probably put it up as a wolf. We do, on occasion, get black coyotes, which are coming from the south, like in the States, but we don't have generally a whole lot of them, so they don't sell for as much as potentially, you know, as black timber wolf. Okay. All right. Any more questions? I guess that's it. Thank you very much, guys.
Well,